Building a brand is a complex process. We break down this complexity by looking into the perspectives of science and art. We derive from the domains of sociology, anthropology, behavioral science, psychology, and neuroscience. One of the domains that made us really curious is the brain and the brand. How does this work? At Bblewrap, we explore the opportunities of neuroscience in building brands that become impactful in the market. For the discussion, we can break down the neuroscience into 5 basic operating principles of brain. The first operating principle of the brain is the brain always looks for the feel-good nature. It wants to feel good, it wants to avoid pain, and it needs to experience well-being. These are achieved by different states of brain. How do you achieve these states of brain? Is by neurotransmitters. The brands have to release neurotransmitters. Some of them you all know: dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, vasopressin, PNF, and so on. So when we build brand, it should help the brain to release neurotransmitters, and these neurotransmitters help in achieving the so-called state of mind. And this is a basic operating principle of brain. We look at these factors where the brand, its architecture, the emotion, the feeling is creating neurotransmitters in your brain and achieve the state of mind, which is part of a living organism. I'd like to go to the second principle of the brain. It's just 2% of your body, but then the kind of energy the brain consumes is huge. Let me put some stats. It consumes 70% of the glucose in your body, 25% of nutrients, and 25% of oxygen. Just think, if you're going to cognitively think about all your decision-making process, the brain just gets into a perpetual overload. We can't operate that way. Now, what does the brain do? The brain runs in an automatic mode to conserve the energy, which means the decision-making process needs to be optimized. And these optimizations are done by the conscious and the unconscious part of the brain. Hence, save energy. Your brand needs to get into this automatic mode so that the energy is saved. So the brand needs to save energy for the brain. When you position your brand in the right way, it just syncs with the basic operating principle. That's the second factor that we look at. Now let's look into the third operating principle of the brain. The brain creates patterns. The brain works on the patterns. Where are these patterns coded? The patterns are coded in your conscious and unconscious part of the brain. When you could make patterns, it reduces the perceived risk. Just connect back to the second operating principle. It saves energy, and hence the brands have to build patterns. The brands have to get sync into the patterns. The fourth operating principle of the brain is contrast. We look for differences, we look for contrast, and that's where the brand plays competition. When we have contrast, it helps in the release of neurotransmitters. Dopamine is a very good example that gets released because of the change in pattern. Just think of a fad. Just think of a song. Just think of a fad. This comes in, and then there is a lot of release of your neurotransmitters. So brain have to work with patterns, with contrast. This is where we look at brands. The brands have to be a part of the pattern. It also needs to be a part of the contrast. Finally, the fifth operating principle of the brain. Humans are social animal. It get connected to humans, it get connected to animals, it connected to objects, it get connected to the surroundings. And we try to imitate. We build something called as mirror neuron systems, and the brands have to be a part of it. When we sync all of the 5 operating principles, we are creating a brand, strong and impactful brand from the perspectives of the operating principles of the brain. Now that's going to be an impactful brand.